they're able to, it's fucked up because, okay, you have kids, and of course kids are, live with their parents, and it's a link to their parents. So from the information you find out from your kids, it's another way to get information on the parents, to find out about them, and to get involved in their lives, to control their lives as well. So to not just control the kids' lives, to control the parents' lives. And that's part of their intention as well. When I say they, I'm referring to government in general. Now, it could be your local government. It could be your state government. It all leads up to the federal government, and federal government is trying to get as involved as possible locally in local communities, counties, cities, whatever they can fucking get their hands on. Trust me, they look at your county's budget or your city's budget and look at how much money is coming from the federal government. That's all public information. I'm sure you could go to a website right now and look at your city or your county's budget and look at how much money comes from the federal government. Especially look at HUD and how much money comes from them. There's a lot of money coming from HUD. Look at how much money comes from Department of Education. Look at how much money comes from or goes to law enforcement. I don't know what department that would come from. Maybe Department of Defense, I think, which used to be called the Department of War because that's what they are. But that's how they're controlling, that's how they got Common Core passed in every fucking state because of money. So states should be self-sufficient where they can throw out the federal government. And unfortunately, they don't try to do that. They just take whatever money they can. But there's always strings attached to money. In every aspect of life, there's somehow strings attached to money for the most part. I guess you can occasionally find situations where somebody will give you money and there's no strings attached. Maybe family or something. But in general, there's always strings attached to money, especially when it's, if it's a one-time thing, that's a little different. But when it's something that's relied on, and that's what it's become, is their budgets rely on that money for every year. So every year that they do their budgets, they rely on this federal money. It's just like, being married and say one of the spouses doesn't work. Now they're relying upon the other one for money. And it's reoccurring. So the same thing. If it's a one-time thing, usually when the federal government's involved, there's strings attached. But if it's a one-time thing, it's a little different, although I would still think with the federal government that there's going to be strings attached even in a one-time I guess allotment of funds. But what they do is it's like crack. So they make it so that the states can't survive without the money from the federal government. And they've fucked with the taxes so much that probably states can't be self-sufficient because there's a certain amount of money that the state probably has to give to the federal government in taxes from businesses or from, I guess it doesn't matter from what, because of course, like in Nevada, we don't have a state income tax, but there's probably a certain amount of money in taxes, no matter, how they're obtaining that money, whether it's from businesses or from payroll tax or sales tax or whatever that they pay to the federal government. And I don't know a lot about that, but it'd be something interesting to find more about that. But I'm sure that there's, a certain amount of money that they have to pay the federal government in taxes. So like the states are taxed. And then, the money's going to go back to you, but not all of it. It's kind of like how people are taxed. Well, some of it might go back to you and benefit you, and some of it might not. It depends. And what you paid in, you might not get back. You might get some of it back and, all that shit. So I looked up the numbers for schools, and I'll get to those in a little while. The amount of schools, because it's fucked up how, again, another media thing, how the media will make it look like, oh my God, the school shootings and all of these things that happen, that they're an epidemic. But when you look at the amount of kids in school and how many schools there are, the chances of your school having a school shooting are less than, getting struck by lightning or something crazy that, never happens. But going back to the CPS, I mean, it doesn't seem like there's any oversight that they're an organization. They're one of those 3-letter, not true. In some states, they're more, that keep expanding. I think the federal government, and I'd like to look at their budget, say for Nevada or for a specific state or a county, and I suggest that people do that. Look at the budgets for, say, CPS for your county and see how much they're getting from the federal government, see what the budget is, see where it's going to. And I'm sure that it has gone up and that they're trying to expand, because CPS in people's lives, like I said, doesn't just get the information about the kid and control. It controls the parents as well. So it controls the whole family when CPS gets involved. And they will bring the police to your house. They will ram your fucking door down, because I know situations where that has happened if you don't open the door. Now, I don't have kids, but if the police came to my house with CPS and it would be obviously a false allegation or something that I didn't do, we'd have a serious problem if they tried to take my kids away. And that's all I'm going to say about it. So this is where, I'm nervous to have kids for a lot of these reasons. I'm more nervous about the government and stuff like the CPS and schools and things like this, even though I would homeschool my kids, but them going after homeschooling, because they lose a lot when they go after if they eliminate homeschooling, or they get less people to homeschool, because they don't get any information about your kid. They don't get any information about you. And that's where I believe that's a positive thing. And for all this shit, these people that are fighting, we got to fight Common Core and whatever. I got a real simple way to get rid of Common Core. Take your kid out of the fucking school. There you go. No more Common Core for your kid. And that is the non-compliance. And that's a fucking easy one, because you can do that legally without getting in any trouble. So don't comply with the system. I mean, that's not non-compliance in the same sense of breaking the law, I guess, because you're not technically breaking the law, but it's non-compliance of what you're expected in the system. But I would never send my kid from, in the beginning And if they require any forms or anything like that, I wouldn't send them shit. And how are they going to know? So there you go. And if I had kids, I wouldn't talk about it, I guess, on the radio. But I don't have kids. But I mean, if and when I do, I'm not going to be talking about them on the radio or posting pictures all over Facebook so the government can have all that as well. So that's all, I guess, on the CPS section, although it all these things are intertwined. It's like a big group of, if you have at the top how to control, well, I guess the goal is not how to control, it's all part of a bigger picture in how to change the future and have a future where, you know, in East Germany type of thing, where the government controls everything, you don't have any rights, all of that stuff. So part of that, I mean, there's different ways to approach that, but that being the goal, and that's what I believe the goal is, and that's obviously based on all these things the government is doing, because why would they be doing all of them? Just for fun? So one of those, if you were looking at that, so if you had at the top, okay, the goal is controlling, how would you title it best? Controlling every, well, we'll just put it the way I put it, and it's probably, they have a much better way of titling it, but it's controlling everything and everyone, and controlling everybody's lives and what they do and all of that stuff. So one part of that, because obviously the government, you know, has put a lot of thought into this, and, well, the powers that be, I would say, and over generations, you can see these things, and they seem like they've sped up their timeline recently, but it still may be, you know, a little longer, but this is a multi-generational thing. So it's, okay, we have to get the kids, because if we get the kids, and this didn't start fucking yesterday, and it didn't start with Common Core. I mean, this started, you know, probably 150 years ago or whenever. And it started with all these billionaires and millionaires and all their endowments into education, like the Rockefellers, like Bill Gates, people like that. And that's a big gap there, because the Rockefellers, and they were involved in a lot of shit, going back to, what, maybe 1930s or 40s. I read that autobiography on David Rockefeller, and I don't remember what he did with the Rockefeller Foundation. I know there was a lot of stuff with science that they were working on and university grants, but as far as schools, I know they did put money into schools, but there's a lot of those foundations that billionaires have that they make it look all nice, like they're doing something great by you know, doing something great by putting money into the school system, but when it comes down to it, you know, they're really not doing anything except trying to control. So that part of it, as far as trying to control everything, obviously the best way to do that long term would be the kid.